I'll just kind of tell you what what I think is important about Team Beachbody and what we're doing. And I know that at the New Leader Conference, I had talked a little bit about sort of the reason why. One of the many reasons why I love what I do. And for me, I'll say it much shorter than I said it there, but I had this really interesting moment about, I guess about 8 years ago at our second summit. And at the time, I have two boys who are now both in college now. It's always fun to see the little babies on the screen because it seems like yesterday. But I have two college-age boys, and at the time they were about 8 and 10, or maybe they were 10 and 12, but I don't know. They were much younger. And for those of you that have been to Summit, even now, I think we have the Beachbody Challenge presentation where we tell the stories of these 8 finalists. And my boys at that time were sitting in the audience. They came that night. They really had no idea. Really, they knew that I went to work every day at other jobs. I had been at Beachbody about 2 years by then, but at other jobs as they were growing up, they knew that I went to work and came home, and that was about it. And we had dinner, and that was about all they knew of my job, was that I would leave early in the morning and come home late at night. And on that particular night, at that summit night, they were sitting in the audience, and I was actually, back then I wasn't always on the stage, so I was actually sitting in the audience with them. And I was watching, and they were just like these two boys that I could never get to sit still, were actually like sitting at the Universal Amphitheater and like transfixed with these stories about these people whose lives had changed so dramatically, and who are so grateful and indebted to their coach and to Beachbody for changing their lives in such a positive way. And I could see, like, it was like this weird magical moment where I was looking over, and they were both just like watching what was going on stage with like such fascination. And when it ended that night, there were a couple of male who were now coaches, but one of them was Dallas Carter. The other was Tommy Migrant, who were in the Beachbody Challenge. They were 2 of the 8 finalists. And in the little lobby of the Universal Amphitheater, my kids were like, take us up so we could meet them. Like, they wanted to be introduced to them. And it was like such an epiphany moment for me, because it was the first time that I realized that my kids were really proud of what I did for a living. They were really proud of the fact that I worked at Beachbody, and really proud of the fact that Beachbody was having this role in changing people's lives. And one, I thought it was just so shocking that that could happen for kids that young of age. But really, from that time forward, my kids have always talked to their friends about what I do in the company that I work for. Prior to that moment, they sort of never did. They had no idea really what I did. But going forward, and even to this day, it's something that, they're really proud of my affiliation with Beachbody. And that's one of the things that that makes me really proud of what I do, that my kids can be proud of what I do for a living. So that's my little story of one of the whys of why I'm here. And I think that, as coaches, it's always it's so funny. Like, life is one of those things. It's always tough. Like, I know Megan has a sick kid. That's something, that's difficult to deal with, but there's always these distractions in life. And if you don't sort of have, and we talk about, it almost sounds cliche in our business, but having that why of why you do something, it's really easy to just sort of drift around in the world. And what happens is, I think that it's okay to drift for a while, but if you keep drifting, you sort of lose interest and you lose track of your why, and you find yourself sometimes in a place that you don't want to be. So one of the things that I would tell you guys is really understanding why you're doing it. And you know, one of the things that I've heard about you is that you guys love your community that you guys have created on your team, and your culture that you've created on your team. And that's something that's really powerful and important to you. And I think that one of the things where I would say, I can't write all of your whys, but you know, that feeling that you get from that has to be something that would be important to other people. And you know, and I think that as coaches and sometimes, and I don't know where all of you on this call are in your coaching career, you may be seasoned veterans, or you may have just started fairly recently, but I think that sometimes we get nervous that, yeah, it works for me, but it might not work for somebody else. And the reality is that we're all, like, when it comes down to it, we're all just human. And I think that most of us really connect to the same things. And that is, and so I think that, you know, one, you should feel confident about sharing what you're doing with other people, because I think that you're sort of giving people an opportunity to tap into the same positive experiences that you guys are feeling. And if it's not right for them, that's their decision. You know, that's their decision to decide if it's right or if it's wrong. But if you never give them the opportunity to experience it, then the answer will definitely be no. So that, I think, is really important. You know, that you need to be confident that if what you're doing is giving you satisfaction, it's highly likely that there's a whole world of people just like you who would feel that same level of satisfaction. And I think you can feel confident about that. The other thing, and so, am I just supposed to keep talking? Is that what I should do? Is that how this?
Normally you can do whatever you'd like to do. People will kind of come on and share with us what they have to share, and then we'll open it up to see if anybody has any questions, if that's good with you.
Awesome. Great. Yeah. So I'll keep yammering on for a second.
Okay.
I'm good at yammering on. If I see anybody dozing off, then I'll know to talk louder or stop talking, but we'll make that call when we get there. You know, the other thing I was just going to talk about, just as it comes down to being successful in this business, I don't know if anybody's listened to it, but there's a podcast out there now. It's kind of getting a lot of buzz in the news, called Missing Richard Simmons. Has anybody heard of this?
No.
So, you guys know who Richard Simmons was? You're all young, but Richard Simmons was like this, long before Beachbody, he was like this fitness guru, and he had like Sweating to the Oldies, and he had Dial a Meal, and he was really this character, like this sort of bigger than life character, a little guy, and he wore like these little short dolphin shorts and a tank top. He had like a big afro, and he was just like this like outrageous guy. So anyway, this sort of the bad part of the podcast is that like so this is from like the 70s or maybe the 80s until like 3 years ago. And he has, like, here in Hollywood, he has, or in Beverly Hills, he has this little tiny studio that like people that he would still teach classes in every day and charge $12 a class. But anyway, like 3 years ago, he just disappeared. Like, he kind of like became a recluse and he kind of disappeared. And so this podcast is done by a friend of his, and it's basically trying to figure out like why he just disappeared. But the part of the story that really I found really just interesting and kind of I thought was reflective of what we do at Beachbody was it kind of, the first couple episodes were sort of just setting up who Richard Simmons was. And what was really just so powerful was, aside from the sort of like he really is like just this ridiculous character. Like, he's just this like very flamboyant, like just in your face, like singing show tunes and all of that. But what was so clear was like how much he cared for people. Like he was like the type of person that would like, you know, like he was on TV like an infomercial. So like if he was going to be showing up at a mall somewhere in the middle of America, like these people would come who were like completely disillusioned with their lives, felt like outcasts because they had weight issues, were, you know, isolated. And, you know, they would go up to him and say, you know, and they would meet him. And then like he would do things like through the local paper, track them down and call them. And some of these people, he would have a weekly call with them for like the next 20 years. And like his dedication, like his why of why he was doing what he was doing was so powerful. His personal mission to try and make people feel better about themselves and get them out of this like kind of place that wasn't good and into a place that was good. And his investment in those people was just like tireless and relentless. And it's because of that like even people who were like ready to give up, they wouldn't give up because he knew that they knew that he wouldn't give up in them. Mm-hmm. And as a result, like these people just became like his biggest advocates, became part of his little culture and his community. And even like in the 3 years, like for years, like not just like, hey, they were involved for like, you know, a couple of years, like they were involved for decades with him. And, you know, or the same people that would go to his class and pay this $12 a class, like, you know, are still doing it today, or were doing it until 3 years ago. And he's like now almost a 70-year-old man, like teaching these classes. And so the thing that, and I think it's the thing that I've always felt has separated Beachbody and Team Beachbody from other network marketing companies. And that's the heart. And I think that, you know, if you have that kind of heart, like it's just, it's infectious and it's something that people want to be a part of. And, you know, there's a lot of, you know, negative noise in the world. And there's a lot of things that people, that are very isolating, you know, and there's a lot of people that it's hard for them to get out of that shell, but they really want to, like really, really want to. And even as you talk to them, like their instincts are to say no. Their instincts are to stay in their shell, because even though it may not be the happiest place, it's the place they know. And for them, they feel it's the safest place and where their vulnerabilities aren't going to be exposed. But as coaches and what we do, like getting people out of those shells is just not just sort of like powerful for them, but it's powerful for us. You know, and there's so much like, you know, I've often said, and I know some of you guys may have seen my my Team Cycle bonus video, but I actually had to be like, they had to like drag me to do that video because I actually don't like to talk about the compensation plan that much. And I don't like to talk about, even though like so much of my job behind the scenes is in a lot of numbers and analytics and stuff, like, to me, like, I hate talking about that stuff. Like, to me, the compensation plan is really a byproduct. It's what naturally happens when you're just connecting with people and making relationships and you know, and connecting people to solutions that will get them results. Like your challenge groups and challenge packs and all of that, you're just connecting people to solutions that are going to help them. And then the compensation kind of all works out in the back end. But what I've always said, and I've been at Beachbody for 10 and a half years now. So I joined to help launch the Coach Network. But prior to that, I worked for another direct selling network marketing company for 11 years. So I've been in this business for 21 years. getting old. Like always, to me, what I think is the biggest payoff of being in this business is that if you do it with your heart, it makes your world bigger. Mm-hmm. And I think probably, perhaps I'm guessing that for some of these spaces on this call, that you guys didn't know each other before you joined, and that these relationships that you've developed are pretty special. And like, to me, that's the biggest part of our compensation plan. Like that's the part that you don't get in another job. And what's really exciting is that as you grow, as your business grows, you're going to be developing more and more of these relationships and in ways that you would have never even comprehended. So like, for instance, right now, we're open in Team Beachbody's open in the US and Canada. 10 years from now, we're going to be open in, every hemisphere of the world. And so, you're going to have the opportunity to create relationships for people, in Europe and South America and Asia. And like, these relationships are going to expand in ways that like you just can't even imagine. And that's like, and that's going to be really fun and powerful and rewarding. So anyway, that's the big picture stuff. The last thing I was just going to say is like, I think that sometimes when we talked about sort of floating around and sort of like I love this, but I'm not really sure what I should be doing, or I love this and I know I should be doing something, but I'm not because I'm distracted or whatever. I would say that as long as you're, so you've all said, yes, you want to do this. I think that, you've all probably experienced a part of this that you find really gratifying and rewarding that you'd love to share with others. And then just in terms of the tactical things to do, I would say you need to find those activities that you can do consistently. Mm-hmm. And there is something, but there's something that you like find what you can do consistently. You can, whether that's building your social media presence by, doing 3 posts a day about your life, whether that's going and saying like, I'm going to go and build that social media by finding people just like me and finding social, Facebook groups about, moms with little kids, or if you're a rock climber, or if you're a teacher, or if you're, an accountant who likes to bowl. I don't know what it is, but there's probably like a Facebook page out there, and go find those people and comment on other people, like go find once a day for you to go like or comment on somebody who has nothing to do with Beachbody's world, and start to build those relationships. And if you do it every day, it eventually starts to build up. It's like the compound effect. It all starts to build up, and you start to have this, bigger pool of relationships. It's funny, like I think that because network marketing, as much as we would love to say it's about selling, it has direct selling, it has selling in it. The reality is that like if you approach this as a salesperson, like you're going to have so many no's that you're going to just like stop right away. But the reality is that the bigger sort of the pool of relationships are, the bigger of the pool of people that are basically watching your life sort of play out in front of them. There's always going to be a percentage of them that are going to watch you for a really long time, and then eventually say, hey, I'm wondering if I can be a part of that, or I'm wondering if you can talk to me more about this challenge group that you're running. But the reality is, if you have 100 people, there's going to be a couple of them that are going to do that at any given time, not all 100. And so the reality is that you got to work really hard at building this sort of like pool of relationships. And the relationships don't have to be the type of thing where like, okay, I'm going to call you on Thursday. They can be small relationships. They can just be like occasional reach outs via social media or anything like that. But just keeping those relationships alive and keeping people interested in you, which really shouldn't be that hard, because I think that most people are interesting, like when it comes down to it, most people, it doesn't take a lot to be interesting.
Mhm.
And we all have something going on in our lives that many other people could relate to. So again, I would say find the things that you can be consistent about. If it's something that you can't be consistent, find something else. And the one thing that I would say, I don't know how many people regularly listen to the National Wake Up Call or the replay, but I actually think those are awesome. And like, you should be listening to those, because you'll listen to it one week and think, I don't relate to what that person is saying. And the next week you'll listen and go, yeah, I could do what that person is doing.
Mhm.
And then that might be the thing, Ashley on this morning's National Wake Up Call, which was a great one. If you haven't heard it, make sure you check in on the replay of that. She basically talked about how, as a coach, she didn't really have a strong upline or anything like that, and she had to kind of figure it out herself. And she figured out the activities that worked, which she eventually sort of adapted for herself through listening to other people on the National Wake Up Call and going to the top leaders and just checking out what their trainings on YouTube, and felt what worked for her. And then she applied those and now is doing awesome. So anyway, that's my yammering.
Thank you. And people shot me a couple questions to follow up with you, and I agree with you about today's National Wake Up Call. I thought was so powerful, because you can make it yours and you can find what works for you. So that refocus on find activities that you can be consistent with and do them, I think is so huge. One question somebody shot me is, you mentioned the podcast. What is your favorite? Do you have a favorite go-to PD book, or a couple that have been really powerful for you?
Surprisingly, I really liked Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic. I didn't think I would, and I read it because I was interviewing her.
Oh, right.
But I did find that really good. There's a book, and I don't know how relevant this is, but there's a book by a guy named Dan Pink called Drive, which is about sort of how and why people are motivated. I don't know. I'm a little bit like geeky, social, like sort of like sociology stuff. So it might be too geeky. But then really what I really like is, I do listen to a lot of podcasts, and I really like, like This American Life, or there's a ton of them I listen to that basically just help me realize that, people are not that complex, and that we're all kind of driven by the same thing. So those are the ones that come to mind. There's another podcast called The Moth, which is just people telling stories, like normal people telling stories. I really love that. So I don't know, I kind of feel like I get my personal development from maybe unusual sources, but they do for me, they do help me sort of ponder life and ponder myself in that life, and sometimes make me push myself harder than I normally would, because I'm kind of just a slacker at heart. So.
Okay. I haven't heard of Moth. I have heard of Drive, and I would like to check that out.
Yeah.
I know we just have you for another minute before your next meeting, but we have, quite a few people headed to Summit this summer, and we're really looking forward to that. But we have, a lot of new coaches that I know are really trying to make that decision on why go to a live event. Just from your perspective, why are live events so important?
Well, the main reason why I think they're important is the same reason why you guys have this call or get together in other avenues, because I think that coaching can be a very, you're sitting in front of a computer, and the realization that there's a whole world of people just like you, and hearing and talking and hearing from other coaches is really powerful, and it's really important to hear what other people are doing. And it validates what you're doing, as well as gives you an opportunity to learn. But I think Summit is super, super important, because, we talk about, like, for one, it is the Team Beachbody culture, like on display, like it can never be on display in any other environment. And I think that's really important. I was talking to Christina Klein, and she was telling me about how she's an elite coach. She's been a coach for just a few years, but she was saying the first summit she went to in Nashville, she couldn't afford to go. So it was one of those like, should I go? Should I not go? I've got, not problems, but I've got reasons, valid reasons on why I shouldn't go, financial, kids, all of that stuff. And she was a fairly new coach, and she said, you know what, I need to find a way to go. And so she like went on, social media and said like, I'm going, I don't know anybody who's going, I'm looking for a place to stay. She ended up, like she said, I shouldn't scare you with this, but she said she shared a hotel room with 5 other women that she didn't know and slept on the floor and woke up with a cockroach in her hair.
Oh gosh.
And I was saying like, oh my God, that sounds horrible. And she goes, it was, but I wouldn't have traded it for anything, because being there, like she said, it was like she couldn't ever imagine like what that actual experience was. And just in that first summit, she had, like she said, she had so many epiphanies about how to do the business, what to do, who to follow, who she identified with, who she didn't identify with, made like really close friends out of that, and went on like a year and a half later to become an elite coach. And I like a 5-star, or I think she's higher than that now, elite coach. And she said, and the funny thing is, she said that she still like has not gone to a summit where she's had her own room. But like she's not sleeping on the floor, and I guess she's sleeping at a better place that doesn't have cockroaches, but nonetheless the spirit is there. And so I just like, it's so hard to explain, but it's one of those things that like when we talk to, I know I'm past my time, but I'll be a little bit late to my next meeting, but when we have the Elite 10 and I go on this great trip with them and everything, and when we talk to them about sort of like, what was it that turned your business around? Almost always it is a moment at Summit, or a moment like on a Success Club trip, but it's one of these events where there's a whole bunch of people, they're interacting with other coaches, and that's usually where they have it. Sometimes it's because they bring their spouses to these events, and it's the first time that their spouses can really understand what they're doing and get buy-in to what they're doing. I know that can sometimes be a struggle in terms of, like spouses saying, why are you wasting your time doing this? And Summit and the events kind of play a role in giving the spouse a vision too. So that's my pitch, and I'm sticking to it. So if you're not going to Summit,
get there.
Go to Summit. And frankly, even for the people on your team, like I do realize that it's not cheap. Like it's an investment to get there. It's not just the ticket, but the travel, the hotel, the food, all of that stuff. And I'm usually like, I'm a very frugal person. So I'm like, I try and put myself in that same spot. And normally I would say if something costs money, if somebody tells you have to spend money to be successful in the business, like I'm always a little cautious about that. But I have much less caution about that. That's an investment that I've seen pay off for so many people, that I think it's well worth it.
Absolutely. I went to my first summit 7.5 months pregnant and didn't know anybody outside of our team except for the one girl I stayed with who was an old student of mine. She let me stay on her couch pregnant, and it totally changed my business. And we tell our team that, and we hope to bring as many people as we can.
Yeah, that's great. And I think we've only had like one baby born during summer and all. So if you're pregnant,
you can make it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys. I'm sorry to ramble on.
It was wonderful.
But it was nice seeing all of your faces on the little Zoom call. So, and hopefully I'll see you guys. Is anyone going on the Success Club trip by any chance?
5 of us on here, I think. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll see you there.
Yes, definitely.
And everybody else will see you at Summit. So.
Sounds good. Thank you, Michael.
Right,
take care.
Bye.
Bye. Let me unmute you guys. Well, that was pretty awesome.
That was really awesome.
It was awesome. Did you guys realize that I almost didn't hit record? I mean, we made it like the first 2 minutes before of him talking.
I didn't.
So
that's funny.
That in. Well, that was really cool. And like, I know we're going to get this off in 5 minutes, but just a couple of things to kind of piggyback on what he talks about, because it is so near and dear to my existence in this company. 2 things. Number one, everyone on here, you guys already get it, but like talk to your downlines and talk to people on this team about knowing this organization, because when you know their heart and when you know their mission, that is a really busy dude. He's the division president of this company, and there's 400,000 some coaches. And I made a post, could anybody help me out on a call tonight? And he was the first person to respond. That blows my mind. I mean, that type of investment in their people. And it's not like, when I met Michael and Jeff and people at NLC a couple weeks ago, it's not, in my head, I thought they might be, probably because I had such a disastrous role into Elite. I really expected me to introduce myself and them to be like, oh, we know about you. You didn't really earn this. That was like my own thing in my head. They had no idea who I was. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, looking at my name tag. Hi, Megan. How are you? So it's not like when I made that post today, he was like, oh, she's a new Elite coach. We should talk to her team. He had no clue. He saw that somebody needed something and was happy to give of himself. So I think that just speaks volumes about what kind of people we are in business with, right? We're not working for them. They are our partners. They are there to help us along the way. And it's easy to get frustrated with things like chat and other things that go wrong. Jen is having like the most hellacious experience with customer relations at the moment. But, behind that, know Beachbody is the organization, know Michael and Jeff and Carl, and I think it will give you so much power to be proud of what you're doing and to lead with this heart of really wanting to serve others and never getting it twisted about what you're doing. I love that he said he doesn't like talking about the compensation plan. Sometimes I get frustrated with myself that I have not built my business different to earn differently as I, in my head, thought I would be earning as an Elite coach or a 5-star coach. But I did not focus on the money. Maybe I should have the first 2 years. I believe in the relationships. I believe in what they do, the challenge groups do for people, and to hear him say that, I think is such a good reminder of it's not bad to think that way. It might take longer, but I think we're building the right way. We're creating strong challenges. We're creating strong relationships. And we're creating a really, really strong team. So that was just really wonderful. And then I want to get this in before it kicks me off. I thought the National Wake Up Call this morning was like golden because I related to her so very much. I was placed on the inside leg of someone that wasn't actively working the business. So it has been really tough for me to grow my business. But I have said to all of you, I'm sure before, there are 2 things that clicked with me very early on. And Ashley said it on the call this morning. If other people were having success here and going on trips and earning money, why couldn't I? That is the most foolish thing in some ways, but there's absolutely no other rhyme or reason to my success than I honestly believe that. And I believe that about any one of you. Why can't you have that success? If you have the dedication to figure it out, and I love when she said that, get in there, get dirty, figure it out, follow top coaches, watch their YouTube channels. It's not hard work, but you will work hard. That's what she said today several times. It's not hard work, but you are going to work hard. If you have that sort of drive, you're going to have success here, and your failures and when you hear no and when you feel defeated are not going to be nearly as painful. It's not easy. It's not fun to feel like you're putting all this effort and you're not receiving the fruits of that labor, but you don't take it quite as personally because you know that it's going to work out for you. You've got to, I hope that you're able to find that type of conviction. I think that's why I enjoy this so much, because I've never questioned whether or not I could do it until the last 3 months. And the last 3 months sucked. It's been my least happy time as a Beachbody coach, because now I'm questioning again, can I be elite again? Is there any possible way that I can pull this off? Was that a fluke? And that's so silly. I've never run my business this way. I've never been a coach that way. And, March, I haven't done it in March, but January and February I did it, and I was miserable as a coach. That's way too much pressure, and it's not effective for me, for my challengers, for my team at all. So, if you did not listen to the National Wake Up Call, go back and listen to it. Listening to those calls every Monday will change your business. Just like he said, you're going to hear different coaches that talk about this in different ways. You're going to hear people that you can relate to, and you're going to learn, I can do that. That person is having the same challenge as me. So whatever reason it is that you're not listening to them, if you're not, ask yourself why, start there.